The screech of Jake Morrison's lifted F250 echoed across the parking lot as he pulled up to Rodriguez Auto Repair, his diesel engine deliberately revving louder than necessary. Emma Rodriguez looked up from under the hood of a 1998 Honda Civic, her weathered hands still gripping a torque wrench as Jake's boots hit the asphalt with theatrical authority. At 38, Emma had seen every type of customer walk through her garage doors, but Jake wasn't here for her services. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Still playing mechanic, I see, Jake called out, his voice carrying the smug confidence of someone accustomed to getting his way. Behind him, two of his employees from Morrison's Premium Auto climbed out of the truck, their pristine uniforms a stark contrast to Emma's oil-stained coveralls. The morning sun caught the gold lettering on Jake's shirt that read, "Owner," in bold letters, as if anyone in Riverside, Texas didn't already know who ran the biggest auto operation in town. Emma straightened slowly, setting down her tools with deliberate precision. She had learned long ago that sudden movements only encouraged men like Jake to mistake caution for weakness. "Morning, Jake. Something I can help you with?" Jake's laugh held no warmth as he gestured toward the modest 3-bay garage that had been Emma's world for the past 15 years. "Help me?" "Sweetheart, I'm here to help you. Word around town as you've been telling folks you can handle the same work we do at Morrison's. Now we both know that's not exactly accurate." The Honda's owner, Mrs. Patterson, shifted uncomfortably near the office door where she'd been waiting to pay her bill. Emma noticed the elderly woman's uncertainty and felt the familiar knot forming in her stomach. This wasn't the first time Jake had chosen to make his point in front of her customers. "Mrs. Patterson's transmission is running smooth now," Emma said evenly, her voice carrying just enough volume for the customer to hear. 47 years of wear, but she's got plenty of miles left in her. Jake stepped closer, invading the space around Emma's workstation with the casual arrogance of someone who'd never been told no. "That's cute. But when that patch job fails, in 6 months, guess who she's going to call for a real transmission rebuild?" He turned toward Mrs. Patterson with a practiced smile. "Ma'am, you know Morrison's offers a full warranty on all our work. Might want to consider getting a second opinion from actual certified technicians." Emma Rodriguez had never intended to become the target of Riverside's automotive establishment. She had simply wanted to carry on her father's legacy, keeping the small garage on Industrial Boulevard running the way Carlos Rodriguez had for 23 years before his heart attack took him away. The transition from daughter who helped after school to full owner and operator had happened gradually, naturally, like the way she'd learned to read engine sounds before she could properly read books. The garage itself told the story of 2 generations of Rodriguez family pride. Carlos had built the place in 1987 with his own hands, laying every brick of the office walls and installing each piece of equipment with the meticulous care of a man who understood that his livelihood depended on precision. Emma had grown up in these bays, learning to change oil before she was tall enough to see over the hood of most cars, absorbing her father's lessons about engines, customers, and the kind of integrity that built lasting businesses. The walls of the small office still displayed the certificates and commendations Carlos had earned during his 12 years as a Navy machinist mate, though they'd been pushed behind stacks of invoices and parts catalogs until only Emma remembered. They were there. A faded photograph showed a younger Carlos in his Navy dress uniform, standing beside a massive ship's engine in some distant port. Emma kept the picture where she could see it from her desk, a reminder of the precision and discipline that had shaped both her father's military service and his approach to civilian engine repair. Those Navy years had given Carlos more than technical skills. They'd taught him to see problems other mechanics missed, to diagnose issues by sound and vibration that others needed expensive computer diagnostics to identify. He'd passed that. intuitive understanding to Emma through countless hours of patient instruction, teaching her to feel the subtle variations in engine performance that spoke volumes about internal condition and potential failures. Emma's own path had taken her through Riverside Community College's automotive technology program, where she'd graduated at the top of her class despite being one of only 3 women in the 2-year program. Her instructors had praised her diagnostic abilities and her methodical approach to complex repairs, but the job market in Riverside had proven less receptive to her credentials. The larger dealerships had politely explained that their customers preferred working with male technicians, while smaller shops worried that hiring a woman would create complications with their existing staff. Taking over Rodriguez Auto Repair had been both necessity and calling. When Carlos died suddenly at 54, Emma had been working as a service writer at a dealership in Houston, using her technical knowledge to translate customer complaints into repair orders for other mechanics. The choice between selling her father's garage and returning to Riverside had never really been a choice at all. She'd given her 2 weeks' notice, packed her few belongings into her pickup truck, and come home to carry on the Rodriguez name. The first few years had been a careful balance of preserving her father's customer relationships while establishing her own credibility. Many of Carlos's longtime clients had continued bringing their vehicles to Emma, trusting that her father's daughter would maintain the same standards of honest work and fair pricing. These customers had become the foundation of her business, their word-of-mouth recommendations slowly building her reputation among neighbors and friends. Emma's approach to automotive repair reflected both her technical training and her father's philosophical approach to customer service. She believed in explaining problems clearly, showing customers exactly what needed attention and why, and never recommending unnecessary work. Her estimates were detailed and honest, her completion times realistic, and her follow-up thorough. The garage's modest profit margins reflected this philosophy, as Emma consistently chose long-term customer relationships over short-term financial gains. The physical demands of the work had never intimidated Emma. She'd grown up understanding that automotive repair required strength, endurance, and the willingness to work in uncomfortable positions for extended periods. Her 5'6" frame had proven perfectly suited to accessing tight engine compartments and crawling under vehicles, while her smaller hands could reach components that gave larger mechanics difficulties. She developed the upper body strength needed for heavy lifting through years of practice, learning to use leverage and proper technique to compensate for any physical disadvantages. Emma's diagnostic skills had grown increasingly sophisticated over her 15 years of independent practice. She could identify transmission problems by the sound of shifting gears, diagnose fuel system issues by the smell of exhaust, and predict engine failures by subtle changes in idle quality. Her tool collection had expanded to include specialized equipment that many larger shops couldn't justify purchasing, instruments that allowed her to perform complex diagnostic procedures, and precision repairs that set her work apart from standard maintenance operations. The small apartment above the garage had become Emma's sanctuary, a space where she could retreat after long days of physical labor and customer interactions. The living quarters were modest but comfortable, reflecting the same practical sensibility that characterized her professional life. A small kitchen, a bedroom barely large enough for a bed and dresser, and a living room that served double duty as office space for the paperwork aspects of running a small business. Emma's evenings were often spent studying technical manuals and online forums, staying current with the rapidly evolving automotive technology that made modern vehicles increasingly complex. She subscribed to multiple trade publications, attended manufacturer training sessions when her schedule permitted, and maintained certifications in several specialized areas of automotive repair. This commitment to continuous learning had allowed her to work on vehicles that other independent shops couldn't service, from European imports with sophisticated electronic systems to modified performance cars that required understanding of aftermarket components. The challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated industry had never entirely disappeared, but Emma had developed strategies for managing the skepticism and occasional hostility she encountered. She let her work speak for itself, maintaining professional boundaries while demonstrating competence through results rather than arguments. When customers questioned her abilities, she responded with patience and technical explanations that usually converted doubt into respect. Her relationship with other automotive professionals in Riverside had remained cordial but distant. The monthly meetings of the local Auto Dealers Association included Emma as the only independent female shop owner, a status that made her both visible and isolated within the group. She attended these gatherings to stay informed about industry developments and maintain necessary business relationships, but she rarely spoke during discussions and never socialized with other attendees after meetings concluded. The arrival of Morrison's premium auto 3 years earlier had shifted the competitive landscape in ways that Emma was still learning to navigate. Jake Morrison had moved to Riverside from Dallas, with aggressive expansion plans and the financial backing to implement them quickly. His operation combined dealership sales with a large service department, offering everything from routine maintenance to major repairs under one roof with extended hours and competitive pricing. Morrison's marketing approach emphasized convenience, technology, and professional image. Their waiting area featured leather seating and complimentary beverages, while their service bays showcased the latest diagnostic equipment and hydraulic lifts. Jake's technicians wore matching uniforms and followed standardized procedures designed to maximize efficiency and minimize customer interaction time. The business model had proven successful, drawing customers who appreciated the polished presentation and comprehensive services. Emma had initially viewed Morrison's arrival as simple market competition, the natural evolution of an automotive service industry that was becoming increasingly corporate and standardized. She'd focused on maintaining her existing customer relationships, while continuing to provide the personalized service and technical expertise that differentiated her operation from larger competitors. The shift from competition to active hostility had been gradual but unmistakable. Jake had begun making comments at industry meetings about the importance of proper certification and professional training, remarks that seemed directed toward Emma despite never mentioning her by name. His staff had started visiting Emma's customers, offering discounted services and questioning the quality of work performed at smaller shops. Several of Emma's longtime clients had switched to Morrison's after receiving aggressive sales pitches that emphasized warranty coverage and modern facilities. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The pressure had intensified when Emma began accepting more complex repair jobs, work that demonstrated her advanced diagnostic abilities and specialized knowledge. Jake's reaction to losing potential customers to what he clearly viewed as an inferior competitor had become increasingly personal and public. His visits to Emma's garage had grown more frequent and confrontational, each encounter designed to undermine her credibility and discourage her customers from trusting her expertise. Emma's response to this escalating conflict had been characteristic of her approach to most challenges. She'd focused on her work, maintained professional standards, and trusted that quality results would speak louder than Jake's intimidation tactics. She'd avoided direct confrontations while documenting incidents of harassment and unfair business practices, building a record of Jake's behavior without engaging in public disputes that might reflect poorly on her business. The morning's encounter with Jake had been typical of their interactions over the past year. Public displays of dominance designed to embarrass Emma in front of her customers and assert Morrison's superior position in the local automotive hierarchy. Emma had learned to manage these situations with calm professionalism, but she'd also begun to recognize that Jake's campaign against her was escalating beyond simple business competition. Mrs. Patterson's decision to complete her transaction and leave quickly after Jake's arrival reflected the uncomfortable position Emma's customers increasingly found themselves in when dealing with Rodriguez Auto Repair. The elderly woman had been coming to the garage since Carlos's time, trusting the Rodriguez family with her transportation needs for over 2 decades. Her obvious discomfort with Jake's intimidation tactics represented exactly the kind of customer relationship damage that Emma most feared. As Jake and his employees finally departed, their diesel truck's exhaust creating a black cloud that hung over the parking lot like a deliberate insult, Emma returned to her work with the Honda's engine. Her hands moved through the familiar motions of final adjustments and quality checks, but her mind processed the implications of the morning's confrontation and the growing certainty that Jake Morrison's campaign against her business was far from over. The afternoon brought a steady stream of routine maintenance appointments, oil changes and brake inspections that provided the reliable income Emma needed to keep the garage operating. Each customer interaction reminded her of why she'd chosen to continue her father's work, the satisfaction of solving problems and helping people maintain reliable transportation. These moments of professional fulfillment balanced against the stress of dealing with Jake's harassment, reinforcing Emma's determination to protect what she'd built over 15 years of dedicated service. Evening found Emma in the garage's office, updating customer records and preparing invoices for the day's completed work. The familiar sounds of the building settling around her, the distant hum of Industrial Boulevard traffic, and the soft lighting of her desk lamp created an atmosphere of peaceful productivity. This quiet time had always been important to Emma, a chance to organize her thoughts and plan for the challenges ahead. The photograph of her father in his Navy uniform caught her attention as she filed the day's paperwork, his confident smile reminding her of the values and skills he'd passed along to his daughter. Carlos Rodriguez had faced his own challenges. As a young Hispanic mechanic building a business in Texas, overcoming prejudice and skepticism through competence and integrity. His legacy lived on not just in the garage that bore his name, but in the approach to life and work that Emma carried forward every day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more opportunities to prove herself worthy of her customers' trust and her father's memory. Emma had no way of knowing that the next day would also bring visitors whose arrival would transform her understanding of her own capabilities and change the trajectory of her conflict with Jake Morrison in ways she could never have imagined. The harassment began subtly, like a slow leak in a hydraulic system that gradually reduces performance until complete failure becomes inevitable. Emma first noticed the pattern 3 weeks after Jake's public confrontation at her garage, when longtime customer Mike Chun called to cancel his appointment for brake work on his delivery truck. "Sorry, Emma," Mike said, his voice carrying an uncomfortable tension she'd never heard before. "Company switching all our fleet maintenance to Morrison's. New policy from corporate headquarters." Emma had maintained Mike's 3 delivery trucks for 8 years, handling everything from routine oil changes to major engine rebuilds. The vehicles ran smoothly and reliably under her care, with maintenance costs significantly lower than industry averages. Mike's company had consistently praised her work and recommended Rodriguez Auto Repair to other businesses in their network. "Did they mention any problems with our service?" Emma asked, though she already suspected the answer. Mike hesitated before responding. "Jake Morrison gave a presentation to our management team last week. Talked about liability issues with smaller shops, insurance requirements, warranty coverage. Made it sound like using independent mechanics was risky business practice." The conversation ended with Mike's awkward apologies and Emma's professional assurances that she understood business decisions sometimes required difficult changes. She hung up the phone knowing this cancellation represented more than lost revenue. Mike's company had been a cornerstone account, providing steady income and serving as a reference for other potential commercial clients. 2 days later, Emma discovered the extent of Jake's campaign when she arrived at Rodriguez Auto Repair to find Tommy Chun waiting in the parking lot beside a Morrison's premium auto service truck. Tommy had worked for Emma briefly 5 years earlier, leaving after 3 months for higher pay at a dealership in Houston. His return to Riverside as Jake's lead mechanic had been announced in the local newspaper's mess section, complete with quotes about bringing advanced diagnostic capabilities to the community. "Morning, Emma," Tommy called out, his greeting carrying false friendliness that immediately put her on guard. "Jake sent me over to make you an offer." Emma unlocked the garage doors and began her routine of turning on lights and checking overnight voicemail messages. Tommy followed her. Inside, his eyes scanning the workshop with obvious assessment. She noticed him photographing equipment work areas with his phone, behavior that seemed designed to gather intelligence rather than make conversation. "What kind of offer?" Emma asked, though she suspected Jake's motives were less than generous. Tommy's smile widened as he pulled a folded document from his shirt pocket. "Jake's expanding operations, looking to acquire smaller shops around town. He's prepared to make a fair cash offer for Rodriguez Auto Repair, including equipment and customer list." The purchase agreement Tommy presented was professionally prepared, complete with legal language and Morrison's premium auto letterhead. The offered price was roughly 60% of the garage's assessed value, far below what Emma would need to relocate and restart elsewhere. More insulting was the employment clause offering Emma a position as a service writer at Morrison's, essentially demoting her from owner-operator to clerical worker. "This is generous considering the challenges facing independent shops," Tommy continued, his tone suggesting he was doing Emma a favor. "Industry's changing fast. Customers want modern facilities, advanced diagnostics, comprehensive warranties. Small operations like this can't compete much longer." Emma read through the document carefully, noting clauses that would prevent her from opening another automotive repair business within 50 miles of Riverside for 5 years after the sale. Jake wasn't just trying to buy her garage. He was attempting to remove her from the industry entirely. "Tell Jake I appreciate his interest," Emma said, handing the papers back to Tommy. "But Rodriguez Auto Repair isn't for sale." Tommy's expression hardened slightly as he folded the rejected offer. "That's unfortunate. Jake was hoping you'd be reasonable about this transition. Makes things easier for everyone involved." The implied threat hung in the air as Tommy departed, leaving Emma to wonder what unreasonable consequences Jake had in mind. She didn't have to wait long to find out. The first incident occurred during the monthly meeting of the Riverside Auto Dealers Association, held in the conference room of the Chamber of Commerce building. Emma had attended these gatherings for 7 years, initially at her father's suggestion, and later to stay informed about industry developments and maintain professional relationships. The meetings typically covered regulatory changes, technology updates, and community involvement opportunities. Jake had gradually assumed an unofficial leadership role in the organization, his enthusiasm for expansion and modernization appealing to other business owners facing similar competitive pressures. His presentations were polished and persuasive, supported by charts and statistics that emphasized the benefits of consolidation and standardization in automotive services. Emma usually sat in the back of the conference room, taking notes and listening to discussions without participating in debates. Her approach had been to absorb information and maintain cordial relationships, without drawing attention to herself or her opinions. This strategy had worked well when the group focused on technical issues and industry trends. The atmosphere shifted when Jake introduced a discussion about professional standards and customer protection. He distributed copies of a report detailing insurance claims and legal disputes involving independent automotive repair shops, statistics that painted small operations as sources of liability and customer dissatisfaction. "We have a responsibility to our community," Jake announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being taken seriously. Customers trust us with their safety and their financial investment in reliable transportation. That trust requires proper facilities, certified technicians, and comprehensive warranty protection. Frank Williams, president of the association and owner of Williams Ford, nodded approvingly. Jake's making good points about industry evolution. We've all seen how customer expectations have changed over the past decade. Emma felt the attention of the room gradually focusing on her corner as Jake's presentation continued. His examples of problematic independent shops seemed carefully chosen to match characteristics of Rodriguez Auto Repair without explicitly naming her business. References to outdated equipment, limited diagnostic capabilities, and inadequate insurance coverage created an obvious target for his implied criticisms. The association should consider establishing minimum standards for membership, Jake suggested, producing another prepared document. Equipment requirements, certification standards, facility specifications. Ways to ensure all our members meet professional benchmarks. The proposed standards would have effectively excluded Emma's garage from the association while grandfathering existing larger operations. Requirements for specific diagnostic equipment, minimum facility square footage, and multiple certified technicians were clearly designed to eliminate smaller competitors rather than improve service quality. Emma had remained silent through most of the presentation, but the direct attack on her membership forced a response. She stood up slowly, aware that every person in the room was watching her reaction to Jake's challenge. Rodriguez Auto Repair has been serving this community for 26 years, she said, her voice steady despite the tension she felt. Our customer satisfaction ratings and repeat business percentages speak for themselves. Professional standards should be measured by results, not facility size. Jake's smile held no warmth as he responded. No one's questioning your dedication, Emma, but dedication without proper resources can create problems for customers and liability issues for the entire industry. The discussion that followed revealed how effectively Jake had built support for his position among other association members. Frank Williams and several dealership owners endorsed the concept of enhanced standards, citing insurance requirements and customer expectations. Only Maria Santos from Santos Import Specialists expressed any skepticism about the proposed changes. Emma left the meeting knowing her position in the local automotive community had been significantly weakened. Jake's campaign had moved from private intimidation to public challenges of her professional credibility and association membership. The proposed standards would likely pass at the next meeting, giving Jake official justification for excluding her from industry events and collaborative opportunities. The escalation continued when Emma arrived at work the following Monday to find 3 potential customers waiting in her parking lot. The situation seemed positive until she began talking with them about their repair needs. Each person had been referred to Rodriguez Auto Repair by Morrison's Premium Auto, supposedly because their vehicles required specialized attention that the larger shop couldn't provide. The first customer, an elderly man named Robert Davis, needed transmission work on a 1995 Buick LeSabre. His description of the problem suggested a relatively straightforward rebuild, well within Emma's capabilities. However, his expectations had been shaped by Morrison's staff, who had apparently told him the repair would be extremely difficult and potentially unsuccessful. They said you might be able to help, Robert explained, but warned me that older transmissions like mine are risky propositions. Something about parts availability and compatibility issues. Emma examined the Buick and quickly identified the transmission problem as a common issue with a well-established repair procedure. Parts were readily available from multiple suppliers, and she had successfully completed dozens of similar rebuilds. Over the years, Morrison's characterization of the job as difficult and risky was deliberately misleading. The second customer presented a similar pattern. Jennifer Walsh brought her Honda Accord with engine performance issues that Morrison's staff had described as beyond their capabilities, requiring specialized diagnostic equipment they didn't possess. Emma's initial inspection revealed a relatively simple problem with the fuel injection system, easily corrected with standard tools and readily available parts. The third referral involved a BMW with electrical problems that Morrison's technicians had supposedly been unable to diagnose. The customer, a young professional named David Kim, had been told that European imports required specialized training and expensive diagnostic equipment that only certain shops possessed. Emma's examination of the BMW revealed a common wiring harness issue that she had repaired numerous times on similar vehicles. Emma gradually realized Jake's strategy was more sophisticated than simple customer theft. By referring difficult-sounding but actually manageable repairs to Rodriguez Auto Repair, Morrison's could create situations where Emma might struggle to meet inflated customer expectations or encounter complications that would reflect poorly on her capabilities. If the repairs went smoothly, Jake could claim credit for knowing which jobs to refer elsewhere. If problems developed, Emma would bear full responsibility for disappointing customers. She decided to proceed with all three repairs, documenting her diagnostic procedures and repair processes more thoroughly than usual. If Jake was setting traps, she would ensure her work met the highest professional standards and provided clear evidence of her competence and integrity. The BMW repair proceeded exactly as Emma had predicted, requiring replacement of a deteriorated wiring harness that controlled several electrical systems. The job took 2 days to complete, well within her original estimate, and restored full functionality to all affected components. David Kim expressed amazement that such a complex-seeming problem had such a straightforward solution. Jennifer Walsh's Honda required replacement of 2 fuel injectors and cleaning of the throttle body assembly, repairs that eliminated the engine performance issues and restored smooth operation. The work was completed in 1 day at a cost significantly lower than what Morrison's had quoted for their unsuccessful diagnostic attempts. Robert Davis's transmission rebuild proved more complex than initially expected, but not because of the challenges Morrison's staff had suggested. Emma discovered that previous repair attempts by another shop had created additional damage, requiring more extensive work than originally necessary. She contacted Robert before proceeding with the expanded repair, explaining the situation and providing detailed estimates for the additional work required. All 3 customers left Rodriguez Auto Repair satisfied with the quality of work and level of communication they had received. More importantly, each expressed frustration with Morrison's handling of their initial service requests and indicated they would return to Emma for future automotive needs. Jake's referral strategy had backfired, creating positive experiences that strengthened Emma's reputation while raising questions about Morrison's diagnostic capabilities. The retaliation came swift and targeted. Emma discovered the campaign's new dimension when she attempted to order parts for upcoming repair jobs and found her credit account with Miller's Parts and Supply had been suspended pending review of payment history. The suspension was particularly puzzling because Emma had maintained excellent payment records with Miller's for 15 years, typically settling invoices within 10 days of receipt. A phone call to Miller's revealed that Jake Morrison had contacted the parts supplier expressing concerns about Rodriguez Auto Repair's financial stability and ability to pay for large orders. He had apparently shared information suggesting Emma's business was struggling and might default on payment obligations, creating liability for suppliers who extended credit. Emma spent 2 hours on the phone with Miller's accounting department, providing financial statements and bank references that demonstrated her business's solid financial position. The credit suspension was lifted, but the incident revealed how Jake was using his influence and connections to create operational difficulties for her garage. Similar problems emerged with other suppliers over the following weeks. Equipment, Rental companies required additional deposits for tools Emma had borrowed regularly for years. Diagnostic software subscriptions needed re-verification of business credentials. Insurance premiums increased due to reported claims activity that Emma's records didn't support. Each incident required time and effort to resolve, disrupting normal business operations and creating administrative burdens that reduced her efficiency. The pattern became clear when Emma overheard Jake's conversation at the local diner where automotive professionals often gathered for lunch. He was explaining to several other business owners how independent shops created problems for the entire industry through poor business practices and inadequate insurance coverage. "It's not personal," Jake was saying, unaware that Emma sat in the booth behind him. "But when small operations can't meet their obligations, it reflects poorly on all of us. Customers lose confidence in automotive services, suppliers get stuck. With bad debts, insurance rates go up for everyone." Emma realized Jake was systematically undermining her business relationships throughout the community, using his connections and Morrison's reputation to create doubt about Rodriguez Auto Repair's reliability and professional standards. The campaign was subtle enough to avoid direct confrontation while effectively isolating her from the support network every small business needed to survive. The most damaging incident occurred when Emma's largest commercial account, Riverside Delivery Services, called to discuss concerns about insurance coverage and liability protection. The company's risk management department had received information suggesting that Rodriguez Auto Repair might not carry adequate insurance for commercial vehicle maintenance, creating potential liability for businesses that used her services. Emma provided detailed documentation of her insurance coverage, which exceeded industry standards and included comprehensive liability protection for commercial accounts. The inquiry was resolved satisfactorily, but the incident revealed how Jake's campaign had expanded to target her most valuable customer. Relationships with sophisticated misinformation designed to create doubt and uncertainty. The cumulative effect of these incidents was exhausting, requiring Emma to spend increasing amounts of time defending her business practices and professional credentials instead of focusing on automotive repair work. Each challenge was manageable individually, but the constant pressure created stress and diverted energy from the customer service and technical excellence that had built her reputation. Emma began documenting each incident, creating a detailed record of Jake's harassment campaign and its impact on her business operations. She consulted with an attorney about potential legal remedies, but the lawyer explained that proving deliberate interference with business relationships would be difficult and expensive, requiring evidence that might be hard to obtain. The situation reached a new level of intensity when Emma discovered that Jake had filed a complaint with the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles suggesting that Rodriguez Auto Repair was performing state inspections without proper certification. The complaint was groundless, as Emma maintained all required certifications and had never had any violations of inspection procedures. But the investigation process required extensive documentation and consumed weeks of time to resolve. Emma's response to the escalating harassment remained focused on maintaining professional standards and customer service excellence. She avoided public confrontations with Jake while building detailed records of his activities and their impact on her business. Her approach reflected both her father's teachings about dignity under pressure and her own understanding that engaging in public disputes would likely damage her reputation more than Jake's campaign. The psychological toll of constant harassment was becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Emma found herself checking over her shoulder in public places, wondering which of her business relationships Jake might target next. Sleep became elusive, as she worried about the morning's potential crises and the afternoon's possible confrontations. The joy she had always found in automotive repair work was being overshadowed by the stress of defending her right to operate an independent business. Despite the mounting pressure, Emma's customer base remained largely loyal. appreciating the quality of her work and the personal attention she provided. Word-of-mouth recommendations continued to bring new clients, and satisfaction surveys consistently showed high ratings for both technical competence and customer service. These positive indicators provided encouragement during the most difficult periods of Jake's campaign. The conflict had transformed from simple business competition into a comprehensive assault on Emma's professional credibility and personal resilience. Jake's resources and connections gave him significant advantages in the battle for community influence and industry recognition. Emma's strengths lay in her technical skills, customer relationships, and determination to maintain integrity her father had built into Rodriguez Auto Repair's foundation. As autumn approached, bringing cooler weather and the busy season for automotive maintenance, Emma prepared for what she sensed would be an escalation in Jake's efforts to drive her out of business. She had no way of knowing that help was coming from an unexpected source, or that her father's military background would soon prove more relevant to her current struggles than she had ever imagined. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in October, just as Emma finished adjusting the valve timing on a Subaru Outback that had been running rough for weeks. The caller identified himself as Frank Williams from the Auto Dealers Association, his voice carrying an unusual formality that immediately caught Emma's attention. "Emma, we need to discuss your membership status," Frank began without his typical pleasantries. "There's been some concern raised about Rodriguez Auto Repair meeting current industry standards." Emma set down her timing light and walked toward the office, sensing that this conversation would require her full attention. Frank's tone suggested this wasn't a routine administrative matter, and she suspected Jake Morrison's influence behind whatever concerns had been raised. "What specific standards are we discussing?" Emma asked, though she already knew the answer would relate to Jake's proposed membership requirements from the previous month's meeting. Frank's explanation confirmed her suspicions. The association had voted to implement enhanced membership criteria that included facility specifications, equipment requirements, and certification standards that effectively excluded smaller independent operations. Rodriguez Auto Repair had been selected for the first compliance review, scheduled for the following week. "It's nothing personal," Frank assured her, using the same phrase Jake had employed during his various campaigns against her business. "The association just needs to ensure all members can meet the professional standards our customers expect." Emma understood that the compliance review was designed to provide official justification for excluding her from the association, giving Jake's harassment campaign institutional legitimacy. The timing was particularly strategic, coming just before the annual Riverside car show and competition, where association members showcased their services and competed for community recognition. "I'll be ready for the review," Emma told Frank, though she knew the outcome had likely been predetermined. Rodriguez Auto Repair has always maintained professional standards. The conversation ended with Frank's awkward attempts at reassurance and Emma's professional acceptance of the evaluation process. She hung up the phone knowing that her membership in the association was probably doomed, but determined to make Jake work for his victory. The compliance review requirements arrived by mail 2 days later. A comprehensive checklist that covered everything from floor space measurements to equipment specifications to certification documentation. Emma spread the papers across her office desk and began systematically evaluating her garage against each criterion. Some requirements were clearly achievable. Emma's certifications were current and comprehensive. Her insurance coverage exceeded minimum standards, and her customer satisfaction records were exemplary. Other criteria seemed designed specifically to exclude her operation, such as minimum bay dimensions that her father's building couldn't meet and equipment specifications for diagnostic tools that cost more than most independent shops could afford. Emma spent the weekend preparing for the review, organizing documentation and creating detailed explanations for areas where her garage might not meet newly established standards. She photographed equipment, compiled maintenance records, and prepared customer testimonials that demonstrated the quality of her work and service. The preparation process reminded Emma of her father's military discipline and attention to detail. Carlos had taught her that successful inspections required more than meeting minimum requirements. They demanded thorough documentation and professional presentation that left no room for criticism or doubt. Monday morning brought an unexpected phone call that shifted Emma's focus from the upcoming review to a more immediate opportunity. Maria Santos from Santos Import Specialists called with an unusual request that would test Emma's diagnostic abilities under public scrutiny. "Emma, I've got a situation that might interest you," Maria began, her voice containing excitement and concern. "In equal measure. The mayor's office contacted me about a problem with the city's emergency response vehicles. Engine performance issues that nobody's been able to solve. The problem involved 3 fire department trucks that had developed similar symptoms over the past month. All 3 vehicles experienced power loss and rough idling that made them unreliable for emergency responses. 2 different dealerships had attempted repairs without success, replacing various components based on diagnostic codes, but failing to eliminate the underlying problem. They're getting desperate," Maria continued. "The fire chief mentioned possibly having to take trucks out of service if the problem can't be solved soon. I suggested they might want to try Rodriguez Auto Repair." Emma's pulse quickened as she considered the implications. Successfully diagnosing and repairing the fire department's vehicles would demonstrate her capabilities to the entire community, providing powerful evidence of her technical expertise just before the association's compliance review. Failure, however, would give Jake Morrison perfect ammunition for his campaign against her professional competence. "What makes you think it's something I can solve when dealerships couldn't?" Emma asked, though she was already mentally preparing for the challenge. Maria's laugh contained genuine confidence in Emma's abilities. "Because you actually listen to engines instead of just reading computer codes. Plus, emergency vehicles get modifications and equipment that standard dealerships don't understand." The opportunity was both tempting and risky. Emma's reputation for solving difficult diagnostic problems would be tested in the most public way possible, with the city's fire protection capabilities depending on her success. The timing, just days before her association review, meant the outcome would influence how her professional competence was perceived throughout the automotive community. "Tell them I'll take a look," Emma decided. "No guarantees, but I'll do my best to identify the problem." The first fire truck arrived at Rodriguez Auto Repair on Wednesday afternoon, driven by Captain Rick Martinez, a 20-year veteran of the Riverside Fire Department. The massive vehicle barely fit into Emma's largest bay, its red paint gleaming under the fluorescent lights as she began her initial examination. Captain Martinez explained the symptoms with the precision of someone whose life might depend on vehicle reliability. The truck would start normally and run smoothly for the first few minutes, then gradually develop rough idling and power loss that worsened under load. Previous repair attempts had focused on fuel system components and ignition parts, but the problems persisted despite replacing multiple expensive components. Emma's diagnostic approach differed fundamentally from the methods used by previous mechanics. Instead of immediately connecting computer diagnostic equipment, she spent 30 minutes listening to the engine under various operating conditions, noting subtle variations in sound and vibration that might indicate the source of the problem. Her examination revealed that the rough idling occurred in a specific pattern, related to engine temperature and electrical load from the truck's extensive emergency equipment. The symptoms suggested an intermittent electrical problem rather than mechanical wear or fuel system contamination, something that might not trigger consistent diagnostic codes. "Has anyone checked the alternator output under full electrical load?" Emma asked Captain Martinez, though she suspected the answer based on the repair attempts he'd described. The captain confirmed that alternator testing had been limited to basic output measurements without evaluating performance under the extreme electrical demands created by emergency lighting, radio equipment, and hydraulic systems. Emma's suspicion that voltage regulation problems might be affecting engine performance required more sophisticated testing than previous mechanics had performed. Emma's diagnostic equipment included oscilloscopes and electrical testing tools that allowed detailed analysis of power system performance under various load conditions. Her investigation revealed that the fire truck's alternator was failing to maintain stable voltage when emergency equipment created maximum electrical demand, causing the engine management system to receive inconsistent power and operate erratically. The problem was particularly insidious because it occurred only under specific combinations of electrical load and engine temperature, conditions that might not be replicated during standard diagnostic procedures. The intermittent nature of the failure explained why previous mechanics had focused on symptoms rather than the underlying electrical cause. Emma's repair solution involved replacing the alternator with a higher capacity unit specifically designed for emergency vehicles, along with upgrading several electrical connections that had degraded under the stress of inconsistent voltage. The work required 2 days to complete, but testing under full load conditions confirmed that the power system now maintained stable voltage even under maximum electrical demand. Captain Martinez's reaction to the successful repair was enthusiastic and immediate. "This truck runs better than it has in months," he said after testing all systems under operational conditions. "How did you figure out what 2 dealerships missed?" Emma's explanation emphasized the importance of understanding how emergency vehicle modifications affected standard automotive systems, knowledge that required experience with specialized equipment and electrical demands. Her approach had been methodical and thorough, focusing on system interactions rather than individual component failures. The fire department's response to Emma's successful diagnosis and repair was swift and decisive. Captain Martinez recommended that the remaining 2 trucks be brought to Rodriguez Auto Repair immediately, and Fire Chief Robert Thompson called personally to express his appreciation for solving a problem that had threatened public safety. The second and third fire trucks presented variations of the same electrical problem, confirming Emma's diagnostic conclusions and allowing her to complete repairs more efficiently. All 3 vehicles were returned to full service within a week, their performance restored to optimal levels through systematic electrical system upgrades. News of Emma's success with the fire department trucks spread quickly through Riverside's emergency services community. Police Chief Sandra Williams called to discuss similar problems with patrol vehicles, while the county's emergency management director inquired about maintenance contracts for specialized rescue equipment. The timing of these developments created a powerful counter-narrative to Jake Morrison's campaign against Emma's professional competence. Her successful resolution of problems that had stumped larger operations demonstrated exactly the kind of specialized diagnostic ability and technical expertise that Jake claimed smaller shops couldn't provide. Emma's preparation for the association compliance review took on new significance as word of her fire department success reached other automotive professionals. The contrast between her proven problem-solving abilities and Jake's theoretical concerns about independent shop capabilities created an obvious tension that would be difficult for the association to ignore. The weekend before the compliance review, Emma received an unexpected visit from Tommy Chun, Jake's lead mechanic who had delivered the purchase offer months earlier. His arrival at Rodriguez Auto Repair on Saturday afternoon, when the garage was officially closed, suggested the conversation would be more personal than professional. "Heard you've been making some noise with the fire department," Tommy said, his casual tone not quite concealing underlying concern. "Jake wanted me to stop by and clarify something about next week's review." Emma continued organizing tools, While listening to Tommy's message, which amounted to a final opportunity to accept Morrison's purchase offer before the association review potentially damaged her business reputation. The terms had been modified slightly, with a higher purchase price and the elimination of the non-compete clause that would have prevented her from working in automotive repair. Jake's concerned that the review process might create unnecessary complications for everyone involved. Tommy explained, "He's willing to make this transition easier if you're interested in avoiding potential embarrassment." The implied threat was clear but carefully worded to avoid explicit intimidation. Jake was offering Emma a face-saving exit before the compliance review that he expected would force her closure anyway. The improved terms suggested he was less confident about the review's outcome following her success with the fire department trucks. Emma's response was polite but definitive. "Tell Jake I appreciate his continued interest, but Rodriguez Auto Repair isn't for sale at any price. I'll take my chances with the review." Tommy's departure was followed by a phone call from Maria Santos, who had heard rumors about the association's planned compliance review and its likely impact on Emma's membership status. Maria's concern was both personal and professional, as she had developed a referral relationship with Emma for complex import vehicle repairs that her own shop couldn't handle. "This whole thing is ridiculous," Maria said, her frustration evident in her voice. "Jake's using the association to eliminate competition instead of improving his own services. Everyone knows Rodriguez Auto Repair does excellent work." Maria's support was encouraging, but Emma knew that one sympathetic association member wouldn't be enough to overcome Jake's influence and the carefully structured compliance requirements designed to exclude her garage. The review would proceed as planned, regardless of her recent successes or professional reputation. Emma spent Sunday evening in her apartment above the garage, reviewing documentation and preparing for what would likely be her final association meeting. The quiet space reflected her father's practical approach to life, with simple furniture and meaningful personal items that reminded her of the values and principles that had shaped her approach to business and life. The photograph of Carlos in his Navy uniform caught her attention as she organized papers for the compliance review. His confident expression reminded Emma of conversations they'd had about facing challenges with dignity and determination. Lessons that applied to both military service and civilian endeavors. Carlos had often spoken about the importance of preparation and attention to detail in overcoming obstacles that seemed insurmountable. His military experience had taught him that thorough preparation and professional execution could overcome significant disadvantages in resources or political support. Emma's approach to the compliance review reflected these lessons, emphasizing documentation and professional presentation that would make criticism difficult even for predetermined opponents. She had prepared detailed responses to every possible objection, supported by customer testimonials and performance records that demonstrated her garage's consistent excellence. The Monday morning of the compliance review arrived with unseasonably warm weather that seemed to mock the tension Emma felt as she prepared for the association's evaluation. She had dressed in her most professional outfit, clean khakis and a pressed shirt that projected competence without pretension. The review team arrived precisely at 9 o'clock, consisting of Frank Williams, Jake Morrison, and Robert Chun, owner of Chun's Auto Body and Paint. Their professional demeanor couldn't quite conceal the predetermined nature of their evaluation. Though Emma maintained polite cooperation throughout the inspection process, Jake's presence on the review team was particularly galling, giving him direct involvement in evaluating the business he had spent months undermining. His questions were carefully phrased to sound objective while highlighting areas where Rodriguez Auto Repair might fail to meet newly established standards. The inspection covered every aspect of Emma's operation, from facility measurements to equipment specifications to certification documentation. Some requirements were clearly met, while others revealed the arbitrary nature of standards designed to exclude rather than evaluate fairly. Emma's responses to critical findings were detailed and professional, demonstrating her thorough preparation and deep understanding of her business operations. She provided documentation for every questioned item and explanations for any apparent deficiencies that revealed the reasonableness of her approach. The review team's deliberations took place in Emma's office while she waited in the garage, continuing routine maintenance work to manage her anxiety about the outcome. The sound of heated discussion suggested that the evaluation was less unanimous than Jake had probably expected. Frank Williams emerged from the office after an hour of deliberation, his expression revealing nothing about the team's conclusions. "Emma, we'll need to discuss our findings at Wednesday's association meeting. You'll have an opportunity to address any concerns before the membership votes on your status." The postponement was unexpected, suggesting that Emma's preparation and recent successes had complicated what Jake had expected to be a straightforward process. The delay provided additional time for community awareness of her fire department work to influence association members' perceptions. Emma's response was gracious but firm. "I look forward to addressing the association about Rodriguez Auto Repairs." Commitment to professional excellence and customer service. The compliance review had ended without immediate resolution, leaving Emma's membership status uncertain but not predetermined. Her thorough preparation and professional presentation had apparently created doubt about the fairness of Jake's campaign, forcing the association to consider public perception and community relationships in their decision-making process. As the review team departed, Emma felt a mixture of relief and apprehension about Wednesday's meeting. She had presented the strongest possible case for her garage's professional standards and community value, but Jake's influence and predetermined agenda remained significant obstacles to a fair evaluation. The next 2 days would determine whether Emma's years of dedicated service and proven competence could overcome institutional bias and deliberate harassment. Her father's lessons about dignity under pressure and thorough preparation had served her well during the review, providing foundation for whatever challenges Wednesday's meeting might bring. Wednesday morning dawned gray and humid, with heavy clouds threatening rain that seemed to mirror the tension Emma felt as she prepared for the association meeting. She had spent the previous evening reviewing her presentation materials one final time, organizing documentation that demonstrated Rodriguez Auto Repair's consistent excellence and community service record. The Chamber of Commerce building buzzed with unusual activity as Emma arrived 15 minutes before the scheduled meeting. Word of the compliance review and its implications had spread throughout Riverside's business community, drawing spectators who rarely attended association gatherings. Emma noticed several of her customers in the lobby, their presence both encouraging and nerve-wracking. Frank Williams had arranged the conference room with obvious attention to formality, positioning chairs in rows facing the presentation area, where Jake Morrison was setting up a laptop and projector. The technological display seemed designed to emphasize Morrison's premium auto's modern capabilities, while highlighting Rodriguez Auto Repair's supposedly outdated approach. Emma took a seat in the front row, her folder of documentation balanced on her lap as association members filed into the room. The atmosphere felt more like a trial than a professional evaluation, with clear divisions between Jake's supporters and the few members who seemed genuinely interested in fair assessment. Jake's presentation began with statistics about automotive industry evolution and the increasing complexity of modern vehicle technology. His slides emphasized the challenges facing independent shops that lacked resources to invest in advanced diagnostic equipment and comprehensive training programs. "Customer expectations have changed dramatically over the past decade," Jake announced, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had rehearsed these arguments extensively. "They want comprehensive warranties, modern facilities, and the assurance that their vehicles are being serviced by certified technicians using current procedures." The presentation included photographs of Morrison's Premium Autos facility, showcasing gleaming service bays, state-of-the-art equipment, and uniformed technicians working in an environment that looked more like a medical facility than a traditional garage. The visual contrast with typical independent shops was deliberate and effective. Emma listened carefully to Jake's arguments, noting how he emphasized theoretical concerns about liability and customer protection, while avoiding specific examples of problems with Rodriguez Auto Repair. His case relied on generalizations about independent shops rather than evidence of actual deficiencies in her operation. When Jake concluded his presentation with recommendations for enhanced membership standards, Frank Williams invited Emma to respond to the compliance review findings. The room fell silent as she stood up and walked to the presentation area, her modest appearance contrasting sharply with Jake's polished corporate image. Emma's presentation began not with slides or statistics, but with a simple statement about her father's legacy and her commitment to continuing the standards he had established. She spoke about Carlos Rodriguez's Navy service and the precision and integrity he had brought to civilian automotive repair, values that shaped every aspect of Rodriguez Auto Repair's operation. Professional excellence isn't measured by facility, size, or equipment cost, Emma said, her voice steady despite the hostile audience. It's demonstrated through consistent results, customer satisfaction, and community service that builds trust over time. Emma's documentation told a compelling story of technical competence and customer loyalty. Her repair records showed completion times that consistently met or exceeded estimates, with follow-up surveys indicating satisfaction rates above 95%. Customer testimonials praised not only the quality of her work, but also her communication skills and honest pricing. The fire department success story provided particularly powerful evidence of Emma's diagnostic capabilities. Captain Martinez had provided a detailed letter describing how Rodriguez Auto Repair had solved problems that defeated two larger operations, demonstrating exactly the kind of specialized expertise that Jake claimed independent shops couldn't provide. Emma's presentation included photographs of her equipment and workspace, showing tools and diagnostic instruments that were professional grade despite their age. Her certifications were current and comprehensive, covering advanced diagnostics and specialized repair procedures that many larger shops didn't offer. Rodriguez Auto Repair has served this community for 26 years without a single unresolved customer complaint or insurance claim, Emma continued. Our safety record, completion rates, and customer retention demonstrate the kind of professional standards that should matter to this association. Jake's response to Emma's presentation was swift and pointed, focusing on theoretical risks and industry trends rather than addressing her specific achievements. He emphasized the association's responsibility to protect customers from potential problems with smaller operations, using language that made Emma's garage sound inherently dangerous despite evidence to the contrary. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results, Jake argued. The automotive industry is evolving rapidly, and operations that can't adapt to new requirements will eventually create problems for customers and liability for the entire community. The debate that followed revealed the political divisions within the association more clearly than Emma had expected. Frank Williams and several larger dealership owners supported Jake's position, citing insurance concerns and customer expectations. Maria Santos and a few other members questioned the fairness of standards that seemed designed to exclude rather than evaluate objectively. The discussion grew heated when Robert Chun suggested that Rodriguez Auto Repair's continued membership might affect the association's ability to negotiate group insurance rates. His implication that Emma's garage represented a liability risk prompted sharp responses from members who had used her services successfully. Emma remained silent during most of the debate, recognizing that her fate was being decided by political considerations rather than professional merit. The arguments for and against her membership had little to do with her actual capabilities or performance record. The situation changed dramatically when the conference room door opened and 3 men in military dress uniforms entered the building. Their presence was immediately noticeable, as naval officers rarely appeared at local business meetings in Riverside. The lead officer approached Frank Williams and spoke quietly, gesturing toward Emma with obvious recognition. Commander David Thompson stepped forward and identified himself to the room, his authoritative presence immediately shifting the atmosphere from contentious debate to respectful attention. The insignia on his uniform indicated special operations experience, lending weight to whatever business had brought him to this unlikely venue. "I apologize for interrupting your meeting," Commander Thompson said, his voice carrying the practiced command presence of a career military officer. "We're here on official business related to Ms. Rodriguez and her family's service to our country." Emma's confusion was evident as she stood up to acknowledge the naval officers, uncertain why her father's military service would be relevant to the association meeting. Commander Thompson's next words began to reveal connections she had never fully understood. "Ms. Rodriguez, we've been trying to locate you for several weeks regarding a matter of significant importance to naval special operations. Your father's service record indicates expertise that may be critical to a current national security project." The room fell completely silent as Commander Thompson continued his explanation. Carlos Rodriguez's Navy service had included classified assignments that went far beyond the basic machinist mate rating Emma had known about. His work on specialized propulsion systems and precision engineering projects had been documented in files that remained sealed for decades after his discharge. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez was involved in developing engine modifications for special operations vessels, Commander Thompson explained. His innovations in precision timing and performance enhancement were classified at the highest levels. "We believe his daughter may have inherited both his technical knowledge and access to documentation we need for current operations." Emma's mind raced as she processed this revelation about her father's military background. The precision and attention to detail that had characterized his approach to civilian automotive repair suddenly made sense in the context of classified military engineering projects that required extreme accuracy and reliability. Commander Thompson's colleague, Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell, stepped forward with a briefcase containing documents that bore official Navy seals and classification markings. "Ms. Rodriguez, we understand you've continued your father's work in precision engine modification and diagnostic procedures. Our current mission requires exactly those capabilities." The explanation that followed transformed Emma's understanding of her own background and capabilities. Carlos Rodriguez had been recruited for special operations support based on his exceptional mechanical aptitude and ability to modify standard engines for covert mission requirements. His civilian garage had been a perfect cover for continuing research and development work that the Navy occasionally required. "The techniques your father developed for precision engine timing and performance optimization are needed for a classified propulsion project," Lieutenant Mitchell continued. "Standard military contractors lack the specific expertise that Chief Rodriguez documented in his technical files." Emma's realization that her father had been involved in ongoing classified work explained many aspects of his approach to automotive repair that had seemed unusually sophisticated for civilian applications. His insistence on precision measurements, his extensive collection of specialized tools, and his methodical documentation of every procedure suddenly revealed their true purpose. "We understand this is unexpected," Commander Thompson said, his tone acknowledging the complexity of the situation. "But national security requirements have made it necessary to contact you about continuing your father's work on a consulting basis." The impact of these revelations on the association meeting was immediate and profound. Jake Morrison's arguments about Emma's supposed limitations and outdated capabilities had been completely undermined by the revelation that Rodriguez Auto Repair represented continuing classified military research rather than simple civilian automotive service. Frank Williams cleared his throat awkwardly, clearly uncertain how to proceed with the compliance review in light of the Navy's unexpected endorsement of Emma's capabilities. The political dynamics of the meeting had shifted dramatically, with Jake's campaign against Emma now appearing petty and uninformed. Emma's response to the Navy officers was carefully measured, reflecting both surprise at the revelations and determination to honor her father's memory appropriately. "Commander Thompson, I'm honored by your confidence in my capabilities, but I need to understand exactly what kind of work you're requesting." The classified nature of the project limited how much detail the officers could provide in a public setting, but Lieutenant Mitchell's briefcase contained documents that outlined general requirements for precision, engine modification, and testing procedures. The work would involve adapting Carlos Rodriguez's documented techniques for current military applications. Your reputation for solving complex diagnostic problems and your proven ability to work with precision timing systems make you uniquely qualified for this project, Commander Thompson explained. The fire department repairs you completed last week demonstrated exactly the kind of systematic problem-solving approach we need. The room's attention remained fixed on this extraordinary development as Emma reviewed the documents the Navy officers had brought. Her father's signature appeared on technical specifications and modification procedures that revealed the sophisticated nature of his classified military work. Jake Morrison's face had drained of color as the implications of the Navy's arrival became clear. His months-long campaign to portray Emma as an incompetent amateur had been exposed as fundamentally wrong by officers who understood the true nature of her technical background and capabilities. "Ms. Rodriguez," Commander Thompson continued, "we're prepared to offer a consulting contract that would formalize your relationship with Naval Special Operations while allowing you to continue your civilian business operations. The compensation would be substantial, reflecting the critical nature of the work." Emma's consideration of the Navy's proposal was complicated by the association meeting's unresolved business and Jake's ongoing campaign against her membership. The timing of the officer's arrival had certainly influenced the political dynamics, but she remained committed to addressing the professional challenges on their own merits. "I'm interested in learning more about this opportunity," Emma told the naval officers, "but I have some business to finish here first." Commander Thompson nodded with obvious approval of Emma's priorities. "We understand your commitment to your community obligations. Our project timeline can accommodate your current responsibilities." The naval officer's departure left the association meeting in a state of suspended animation, with members uncertain how to proceed with evaluating Emma's qualifications after learning about her classified military connections. Jake's prepared arguments about independent shop limitations seemed ridiculous in light of the Navy's confidence in Rodriguez Auto Repair's capabilities. Frank Williams attempted to restore order to the meeting, but the extraordinary revelations had fundamentally changed the context of the compliance review. Several members who had supported Jake's position now seemed reluctant to question Emma's professional standards, while others appeared eager to associate themselves with someone who had attracted military attention. Maria Santos seized the moment to call for an immediate vote on Emma's membership status, arguing that further debate was unnecessary given the Navy's endorsement of her technical capabilities. Her motion received unexpected support from members who had previously remained neutral in the dispute. Jake's final attempt to salvage his campaign focused on procedural arguments about following established review processes regardless of external developments. His insistence that the association should ignore the Navy's assessment of Emma's capabilities revealed the personal nature of his opposition rather than legitimate professional concerns. The membership vote was decisive, with only Jake and two close allies supporting his motion to exclude Emma from the association. The overwhelming majority voted to retain her membership while tabling the proposed enhanced standards pending further review of their fairness and necessity. Emma's victory in the association vote was satisfying but secondary to the larger implications of the Navy's revelations about her father's background and her own potential role in classified military projects. The morning had transformed her understanding of both her past and her future in ways she was still processing. As the meeting concluded and members filed out with animated discussions about the extraordinary developments, Emma remained in the conference room organizing her presentation materials and considering the opportunities and responsibilities that lay ahead. Her father's legacy had proven more complex and significant than she had ever imagined, opening doors to possibilities she had never considered. Jake Morrison's departure was notably subdued, his confident swagger replaced by the defeated posture of someone whose carefully planned campaign had collapsed spectacularly. His months of harassment and intimidation had been revealed as attacks on someone whose capabilities and connections far exceeded his understanding. The transformation of Emma's status within the automotive community was immediate and dramatic. Association members who had previously ignored or dismissed her now approached with respect and interest, seeking to understand how Rodriguez Auto Repair had attracted the attention of Naval Special Operations. Emma's response to these overtures was gracious but reserved, reflecting her natural inclination toward privacy and her uncertainty about how much she should reveal about the Navy's unexpected contact. The classified nature of her father's work and the potential consulting opportunity required discretion that went beyond normal business considerations. The afternoon brought a steady stream of phone calls from customers, suppliers, and other automotive professionals who had heard about the morning's dramatic developments. Emma's appointment book filled rapidly as word spread about her military connections and the Navy's confidence in her technical capabilities. The irony was not lost on Emma that Jake Morrison's campaign to destroy her reputation had ultimately led to revelations that elevated her status far beyond what she had ever sought or expected. His harassment had forced her to document and present her capabilities in ways that caught the attention of people who truly understood their significance. As evening approached and the garage grew quiet, Emma sat in her office reviewing the Navy documents and considering the choices that lay before her. Her father's photograph seemed to watch approvingly as she contemplated continuing his classified work while maintaining the civilian business he had built with such care and dedication. The future held possibilities that Emma had never imagined, opportunities to serve her country while honoring her father's memory and protecting the community business that had been her life's work. The challenges would be substantial, but so would the rewards of proving that precision, integrity, and quiet competence could overcome any obstacle. The classified briefing took place 3 days later in a secure facility outside San Antonio, where Emma found herself surrounded by naval intelligence officers, engineering specialists, and technical documentation that revealed the full scope of her father's contributions to military operations. The sterile conference room contrasted sharply with her familiar garage environment, but the precision engineering concepts felt surprisingly familiar. Commander Thompson's detailed explanation of Carlos Rodriguez's work painted a picture of a master technician whose innovations had influenced submarine propulsion systems, special operations watercraft, and covert insertion vehicles for over 2 decades after his official discharge. His civilian garage had served as an unofficial research and development center, where prototype modifications were tested and refined away from the scrutiny of traditional military installations. Your father's approach to precision timing and performance optimization was decades ahead of conventional military engineering, Lieutenant Mitchell explained, spreading technical drawings across the conference table. His modifications increased efficiency by 30% while reducing acoustic signatures to levels that made detection nearly impossible. Emma studied the documents with growing amazement at her father's secret accomplishments. The meticulous documentation revealed engineering principles that explained his obsessive attention to detail in civilian automotive work. Every technique he had taught her carried applications far beyond routine vehicle maintenance. The current project requiring Emma's expertise involved adapting Carlos's documented procedures for a new generation of specialized watercraft that would support counter-terrorism operations in coastal environments. The propulsion systems needed modifications that balanced stealth requirements with performance capabilities, exactly the kind of challenge that had defined her father's classified work. We've tried replicating Chief Rodriguez's modifications using conventional military contractors, Commander Thompson continued. But the results lacked the precision and reliability that made his original work so effective. We need someone who understands both the technical procedures and the underlying principles. Emma's acceptance of the consulting contract came with security clearances that required extensive background investigations and lifestyle adjustments that would affect every aspect of her life. The compensation package was indeed substantial, providing financial security that would allow her to expand Rodriguez Auto Repair while maintaining the classified work that honored her father's legacy. The transformation of Emma's circumstances created ripple effects throughout Riverside's automotive community that extended far beyond her personal success. The Navy's confidence in her capabilities had elevated Rodriguez Auto Repair's reputation to levels that attracted customers from across Texas, creating business opportunities she had never imagined possible. Jake Morrison's response to these developments was a mixture of stunned disbelief and grudging acceptance that his campaign against Emma had failed completely. His first contact with her after the association meeting came in the form of a formal written apology that acknowledged his unprofessional behavior and expressed regret for the harassment campaign that had caused unnecessary stress and business disruption. Emma's reaction to Jake's apology was characteristically measured, neither vindictive nor immediately forgiving. She recognized that rebuilding trust would require demonstrated changes in behavior rather than written words, but she appreciated the acknowledgement of wrongdoing and the apparent sincerity of his regret. The conversation that followed Jake's apology took place at Rodriguez Auto Repair on a quiet Saturday morning, when both operations were closed and the discussion could proceed without public attention or competitive pressures. Jake's demeanor was markedly different from his previous arrogance, replaced by genuine humility and obvious discomfort with the situation he had created. I made assumptions about your capabilities based on prejudices I didn't even realize I had, Jake admitted, his voice lacking the swagger that had characterized their previous interactions. Watching the Navy officers explain your father's background made me understand how completely wrong I'd been about everything. Emma listened to Jake's explanation of his motivations and insecurities, recognizing that his harassment campaign had been driven more by fear of competition than malicious intent. His corporate background had taught him to view business relationships as zero-sum competitions, where someone else's success necessarily meant his own failure. I built Morrison's to prove something to myself and my family, Jake continued. But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of why automotive service matters to customers and communities. Your approach reminded me that this business is about helping people, not just making money. The discussion evolved into a broader conversation about professional standards and community responsibility that revealed Jake's underlying respect for Emma's technical abilities and business ethics. His campaign against her had been rooted in insecurity rather than legitimate professional concerns, a realization that seemed to genuinely surprise him. Emma's response focused on the future rather than dwelling on past grievances. The automotive industry has room for different approaches and business models, she said. Competition should improve everyone's service quality, not destroy smaller operations. The resolution between Emma and Jake developed gradually over the following months, as his reformed approach to business competition created opportunities for collaboration rather than conflict. Morrison's premium auto began referring complex diagnostic problems to Rodriguez Auto Repair, acknowledging Emma's specialized expertise while focusing on their own strengths in routine, maintenance, and customer convenience. This professional cooperation benefited both operations and their customers, creating a referral network that utilized each garage's particular capabilities rather than forcing artificial competition over every potential job. Emma's diagnostic skills complemented Morrison's comprehensive services, while Jake's modern facilities provided backup support for projects requiring specialized equipment or extended workspace. The change in Jake's approach influenced other automotive professionals throughout Riverside, creating a more collaborative atmosphere that emphasized technical excellence and customer service over territorial disputes and exclusionary practices. The Auto Dealers Association restructured its membership requirements to focus on actual performance standards rather than facility specifications that favored larger operations. Emma's new role as a naval consultant required careful balance between classified responsibilities and civilian business obligations, a challenge that proved more manageable than she had initially expected. The Navy's project timeline allowed flexible scheduling that accommodated her existing customer commitments while providing technical challenges that utilize her advanced diagnostic capabilities. The classified work involved both theoretical analysis of Carlos Rodriguez's documented procedures and practical testing of prototype modifications at secure facilities along the Texas coast. Emma's contribution combined her inherited understanding of her father's engineering principles with her own diagnostic experience and problem-solving abilities. The success of Emma's initial consulting projects led to expanded responsibilities and recognition within naval special operations circles that opened additional opportunities for classified work. Her reputation as a precision engineer spread beyond the immediate project requirements, creating demand for her expertise in related military applications. Rodriguez Auto Repair's civilian operation flourished under the enhanced reputation and financial stability that Emma's naval consulting provided. She was able to invest in advanced diagnostic equipment and facility improvements that increased her capabilities while maintaining the personal service approach that had always distinguished her business. The garage's expansion included a second bay specifically equipped for precision diagnostic work and a secure office area where classified documentation could be stored and reviewed. These improvements allowed Emma to serve both civilian and military customers without compromising security requirements or professional standards. Emma's success attracted national attention from automotive trade publications and military contractors, interested in her unique combination of civilian and classified expertise. Articles about her innovative diagnostic techniques and specialized consulting work elevated Rodriguez Auto Repair's profile throughout the automotive industry. The recognition brought opportunities for speaking, engagements at technical conferences and training seminars, where Emma shared her father's engineering principles with civilian mechanics and military technicians. Her presentations emphasized precision, systematic analysis, and attention to detail as universal requirements for excellence in automotive service. Maria Santos became one of Emma's strongest supporters and advocates within the automotive community, using her position in the Import Specialists Network to promote Rodriguez Auto Repair's capabilities and refer complex diagnostic challenges that showcased Emma's expertise. Their professional relationship developed into a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and shared values. The broader impact of Emma's transformation extended to other women working in automotive trades throughout Texas, as her example demonstrated that technical excellence and professional integrity could overcome gender-based discrimination and institutional bias. Several female mechanics credited Emma's success with encouraging their own career advancement and business development. Emma's approach to mentoring younger technicians reflected her father's teaching methods, emphasizing hands-on learning and systematic problem-solving over theoretical knowledge and standardized procedures. Her diagnostic classes attracted students from across the region who wanted to learn advanced troubleshooting techniques. The establishment of the Rodriguez Technical Training Center provided formal structure for Emma's educational activities while generating additional revenue that supported both civilian and military consulting obligations. The center's curriculum combined traditional automotive repair with precision engineering principles derived from Carlos Rodriguez's classified work. The anniversary of Carlos Rodriguez's death brought reflection on the extraordinary changes that had transformed Emma's life and career over the past year. The quiet memorial service she had planned became a community celebration of both father and daughter's contributions to Riverside's automotive industry and national security. Commander Thompson's attendance at the memorial service provided public recognition of Carlos Rodriguez's classified contributions to naval operations, acknowledgement that had been impossible during his lifetime but seemed appropriate given Emma's current role in continuing his work. The ceremony honored both the public and private aspects of his service legacy. Emma's speech at the memorial emphasized the values and principles that had guided her father's approach to both military service and civilian business, lessons about precision, integrity, and dedication that remained relevant regardless of the specific application. His influence continued to shape her decisions and priorities as her responsibilities expanded. The future held possibilities that Emma continued to explore with the same methodical approach her father had taught her, balancing expanded opportunities with commitment to the community relationships that had sustained Rodriguez Auto Repair through difficult periods. Her success had created platform for even greater contributions to both civilian and military engineering challenges. The transformation of Jake Morrison's approach to business competition had ripple effects throughout Riverside's automotive community, encouraging collaboration and professional development that benefited everyone involved. His recognition of Emma's capabilities had forced him to examine his own assumptions and business practices in ways that improved his understanding of customer service and community responsibility. Emma's relationship with Jake evolved from adversarial to respectful professional cooperation, demonstrating that even deeply rooted conflicts could be resolved through honest communication and mutual recognition of shared goals. Their example influenced other business relationships throughout the community, creating more collaborative atmosphere overall. The success of Rodriguez Auto Repair under Emma's leadership validated her father's confidence in her abilities and his decision to pass the business to someone who would honor his values while adapting to changing circumstances. The combination of civilian excellence and classified expertise created unique value that exceeded what either component could have achieved independently. Emma's evening routine often found her in the garage after closing, reviewing technical documentation or working on particularly challenging diagnostic problems in the quiet workspace that had been her second home for over 15 years. These moments of solitary focus connected her to memories of learning beside her father, while pointing toward future achievements that would extend his legacy. The photograph of Carlos Rodriguez in his Navy uniform remained prominently displayed in Emma's office, but now it was accompanied by certificates and commendations that recognized her own contributions to military engineering and civilian automotive excellence. The display represented continuity of family values across generations and applications. The questions that had once seemed so important about Emma's place in Riverside's automotive hierarchy had been answered definitively by her demonstrated capabilities and community contributions. Her position was secure not because of institutional protection or political influence, but because of proven value that no one could reasonably question. Looking toward the future, Emma saw opportunities to expand both civilian and military applications of the engineering principles her father had developed, creating new possibilities for innovation and service that would honor his memory while meeting contemporary challenges. The foundation he had built would support achievements he could never have imagined. The quiet strength that had sustained Emma through months of harassment and professional challenges had been validated by circumstances that revealed her true capabilities and potential. Her patience and persistence had overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable, proving that competence and integrity ultimately triumph over prejudice and intimidation. The story of Rodriguez Auto Repair had become a testament to the power of precision, dedication, and quiet excellence to overcome any challenge. Emma's transformation from harassed independent mechanic to respected military consultant demonstrated that real capability would always find recognition, even when hidden beneath humble circumstances or targeted by unfair opposition. Her father's legacy lived on, not just in the technical procedures and engineering principles he had documented, but in the approach to life and work that he had instilled in his daughter. The values of precision, integrity, and service continued to guide Emma's decisions as her responsibilities expanded and her influence grew. The community that had witnessed Emma's transformation gained new appreciation for the hidden talents and capabilities that might exist among apparently ordinary neighbors and business owners. Her example encouraged others to look beyond surface appearances and recognize the extraordinary potential that often went unnoticed in everyday circumstances. Emma Rodriguez had proven that quiet competence and unwavering dedication could overcome any obstacle, transform any situation, and create opportunities that exceeded anyone's expectations. Her story would inspire others facing similar challenges to maintain their standards and trust that excellence would ultimately be recognized and rewarded. The garage on Industrial Boulevard continued to serve Riverside's automotive needs with the same attention to detail and customer service that had characterized Carlos Rodriguez's operation, while also contributing to national security projects that protected American interests around the world. The dual mission represented perfect integration of civilian and military service that honored both aspects of the Rodriguez family legacy. As the sun set over Riverside, Texas, Emma Rodriguez stood in the doorway of her garage, looking out at the community that had tested and ultimately embraced her. Knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities to serve with the precision and integrity her father had taught her to value above all else. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.